The air hung heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and anticipation. Professor Elmwood, his brow creased with concentration, meticulously brushed away layers of sediment. Years he had spent in these catacombs beneath the Egyptian sands, driven by the pursuit of a discovery that would rewrite history. His team worked tirelessly alongside him, their headlamps cutting through the oppressive darkness. They moved with practiced precision, each swing of the pickaxe, each sweep of the brush, bringing them closer to the secrets buried beneath. Each day brought them closer to the unseen, the unknown. The silence was broken only by the rhythmic clang of metal against stone, a symphony of discovery echoing through the subterranean labyrinth. They were a team on the precipice of a breakthrough. Professor Elmwood could feel it in his bones, a certainty that sent shivers down his spine. Then it happened. A shout sharp and piercing cut through the silence. Young Thomas, his voice trembling with excitement, pointed his headlamp towards a section of the dig site, his face illuminated in the darkness. "Professor, sir, come quickly!" Professor Elmwood rushed towards the source of the commotion, his heart pounding in his chest. The air was thick with anticipation, every step echoing the urgency of the moment. He arrived to find his team huddled around a newly unearthed section of the dig. Their faces were lit by the glow of their lamps, eyes wide with astonishment. There, emerging from the earth like a titan from its slumber, was the outline of a colossal statue. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was a sight that stole his breath away. The sheer magnitude of the discovery was overwhelming. The statue, carved from an unknown obsidian-like stone, towered over them, its features shrouded in shadow. The craftsmanship was exquisite, each detail meticulously rendered. Even partially buried, its sheer size dwarfed everything around it, a testament to the skill and ambition of its creators. It was a marvel of ancient engineering. The team stared in awe, their faces a mixture of wonder and apprehension. They knew they were standing on the brink of history. This was no ordinary find. It was a gateway to a past long forgotten. This was something far older, far grander than they could have ever imagined, a relic from a civilization lost to time. The professor, his eyes wide with fascination, knew that this discovery was about to change everything. It was a moment that would redefine their understanding of history. Days turned into weeks as the team, their initial awe giving way to determined curiosity, worked tirelessly to unearth the statue. Each layer of sediment removed revealed more of the colossus, its features slowly emerging from the dust of millennia. The statue depicted a humanoid figure, its expression stern and unyielding, seated upon an ornate throne. In its hands it clutched an object that resembled a sphere, its surface etched with intricate carvings. Every detail, from the folds of its garments to the glint in its eyes, spoke of an artistry beyond human comprehension. Professor Elmwood found himself drawn to the statue, spending countless hours studying its every detail, his fingers tracing the lines of its ancient script. He felt an inexplicable connection to the statue, a sense of familiarity that sent shivers down his spine. The team, under Elmwood's direction, decided to move the statue to a laboratory on the surface for further study. It was a Herculean task, requiring a delicate touch and nerves of steel. They built scaffolding around the statue, its metal frame a stark contrast to the ancient stone. Cranes groaned under the weight of the colossus as it was slowly, painstakingly lifted from its resting place. The air crackled with tension, every movement watched with bated breath. But finally, after weeks of meticulous work, the statue was free. As the statue was carefully lowered onto a reinforced platform, a collective sigh of relief swept through the team. They had done it. They had brought a piece of the past back to the present, a silent witness to an age long gone. The laboratory, bathed in the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, buzzed with activity. Scientists and archaeologists from around the world had gathered, drawn by the allure of the ancient statue, eager to unlock its secrets. Professor Elmwood, his eyes sparkling with excitement, stood before the statue, a small brush in his hand, carefully removing the last vestiges of dust from its surface. As he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, his every move scrutinized. Suddenly the ground beneath their feet rumbled, a low tremor that sent ripples through the laboratory. Equipment rattled, lights flickered, and a wave of unease washed over the room. Professor Elmwood, caught off guard, stumbled, his eyes fixed on the statue. Section 6. The Sentinel Awakens. The tremors intensified, growing stronger with each passing second. The ground beneath them seemed to be alive, pulsating with a force that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy, and a low hum resonated from the statue. It was as if the very atmosphere was vibrating, responding to an ancient call. Panic surged through the laboratory, a chaotic scramble for safety as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. Scientists and researchers who had dedicated their lives to logic and reason found themselves in the midst of a surreal nightmare. The sphere in the statue's hand began to glow, a soft, ethereal light that pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm. It was mesmerizing, drawing everyone's attention despite the chaos around them. Cracks, like veins of molten gold, spread across the surface of the statue, tracing the lines of its ancient script. The impossible was happening. The ancient carvings seemed to come alive, glowing with a mysterious energy. The statue was coming to life. Its stone limbs began to move, slowly at first, then with increasing confidence, as if awakening from a long slumber. Professor Elmwood watched in stunned silence, his mind struggling to comprehend the scene unfolding before him. He had read about such phenomena in ancient texts, but never had he imagined witnessing it firsthand. The ground lurched violently, throwing him off balance, but he couldn't tear his gaze away from the statue. It was as if the very earth was reacting to the statue's awakening. It was as if he were caught in its thrall, powerless to resist its pull. The statue's presence was overwhelming, commanding attention and reverence. Section 7. Finally, you found me. The words echoed in the cavernous space, reverberating off the ancient stone walls. It was as if the very air held its breath, waiting for what would come next. With a deafening crack, the statue's eyes snapped open, glowing with an intense, otherworldly light. The brilliance was almost blinding, casting eerie shadows that danced across the room. The laboratory plunged into darkness, the only illumination coming from the pulsating sphere and the statue's eyes. The contrast between light and dark was stark, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. A collective gasp echoed through the room, a mixture of fear and awe. The air was electric, charged with the raw emotion of the moment. Then a voice, ancient and powerful, echoed through the laboratory, seeming to emanate from the very walls themselves. It was a voice that carried the weight of millennia, filled with wisdom and authority. It spoke in a language both alien and familiar, its tone laced with an emotion that sent shivers down their spines. The words were incomprehensible, yet they resonated deeply within each listener. Finally it boomed, its voice resonating deep within their chests. The sound was almost tangible, vibrating through their very bones. Professor Elmwood, his heart pounding in his chest, stared up at the statue, his mind reeling. He felt a connection, an inexplicable bond with the ancient figure before him. "Who are you?" he whispered, his voice barely audible above the humming of the sphere. The question hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. The statue turned its head, its gaze fixing upon the professor, piercing him with its intensity. It was as if the statue could see into his very soul, understanding his deepest thoughts and fears. Section 8. Eons of Waiting. The statue shifted its weight, the movement sending another tremor through the laboratory. The sphere in its hand pulsed with a blinding light, momentarily illuminating the room, revealing the stunned faces of the onlookers. Then, with a voice that seemed to echo through the ages, it spoke again. "I have been waiting for you," the statue rumbled, its voice deep and resonant, echoing with an ancient power. "For millennia I have slumbered, bound by duty and oath. Now my watch begins anew." Professor Elmwood, his mind awhirl, could only stare in mute astonishment. What did it mean, he wondered, his mind racing? What oath? What duty? The questions tumbled through his mind, each one more bewildering than the last. He had stumbled upon something far greater, far more ancient than he could have ever imagined. Section 9. The mystery deepens. The statue, its gaze fixed on the distance, seemed to radiate an aura of power, an ancient energy that crackled in the air. The laboratory was eerily silent. The scientists and archaeologists frozen in place, caught between fascination and fear, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow emanating from the statue. "The time has come," the statue boomed, its voice echoing with an unnerving calmness, "to fulfill my purpose. The balance has been disrupted, the threads of time frayed, and I am the one who must set things right." Professor Elmwood, his heart pounding in his chest, watched as the statue, with a finality that sent shivers down his spine, rose to its full height, its eyes blazing with an otherworldly light. What had he unearthed? What forces had he unleashed upon the world?